The rebless robotic therapy device is designed to restore controlled, repeatable limb motion for patients recovering strength, mobility, and neuromuscular coordination. Rebless is a robotic therapy system launched in 2019 and cleared through FDA 510(k) in 2021, designed to support both upper and lower limb rehabilitation through a modular actuator platform. Its primary clinical use occurs in post-stroke and traumatic brain injury therapy, which accounts for roughly 70% of installations, while orthopedic and neurological programs represent the remaining distribution. The system's configuration allows clinicians to reposition the actuator for various joint targets, contributing to its adoption across rehab clinics, hospitals, and a smaller percentage of home-based therapy users. Typical system cost ranges from $12,000 to $15,000, depending on included accessories. Rebless operates through 5 programmed modes that target different stages of motor recovery. In passive mode, the actuator drives the limb through preset angles to maintain mobility and circulation during periods of limited voluntary movement. Active assist mode combines user-initiated motion with proportional torque support to reinforce neuromuscular coordination. Active mode records voluntary motion without mechanical input, enabling progression monitoring. Resistive mode applies controlled counter-torque for muscle strengthening under safe loading. Continuous passive motion provides cyclical joint movement at controlled velocity and amplitude to maintain tissue flexibility and lubrication. The system's structure consists of a compact main body measuring approximately 792 by 362 by 241 millimeters, supporting limb positioning for a range of therapeutic tasks. The detachable actuator, measuring 219 millimeters in length and 126 millimeters in diameter, can be oriented for upper or lower limb use depending on the clinical requirement. These dimensions define the mechanical workspace, clearance needs, and setup footprint for therapy environments. The device includes core components needed to secure and support the limb during mechanical actuation. The main body and actuator supply movement, while the upper, middle, and lower pads stabilize the joint along the correct axis of rotation. Adjustable straps maintain alignment under torque, and the optional hand support attachment enables upper limb use. Power is delivered through a dedicated adapter and switch assembly, and the optional remote controller provides direct access to motion settings and intensity adjustments. Rebless uses a brushless DC motor paired with a planetary gear reduction system to generate controlled torque outputs suitable for therapeutic loading. Position encoders measure angular displacement, while torque sensors provide continuous feedback of limb interaction forces. These signals feed a closed-loop PID controller that adjusts motor behavior to follow the programmed motion profile. Impedance-based control allows the actuator to yield proportionally when the user applies force, maintaining safe interaction while capturing biomechanical response data. Maintenance follows a structured schedule to preserve consistent mechanical performance. Daily use involves surface cleaning, strap inspection, and system self-tests. Weekly checks focus on cable and connector integrity, while quarterly service includes torque sensor calibration, encoder verification, and firmware updates. Annual maintenance addresses internal components such as bearings and drive interfaces. Operational life is supported by a mean time between failures of more than 2,000 hours, and stable storage conditions between 15 and 30 degrees Celsius help prevent material degradation. The comparison chart standardizes multiple device classes across key engineering parameters, including range of motion, torque capability, adaptability to user variability, safety behaviors, and maintenance requirements. Normalized scores highlight differences in how various rehabilitation systems distribute capability across these categories, providing a structured overview of performance characteristics without implying superiority. Temperature measurements recorded along the device during a 30-minute continuous session show a gradual rise toward the actuator housing, reaching peak values near 41 degrees Celsius before decreasing along the distal section. Heat generation originates from motor windings and drivers, while the aluminum enclosure functions as a passive heat sink to slow thermal accumulation. The plotted curve reflects a typical exponential rise toward steady state based on electrical losses and convective heat transfer. The joint angle tracking data illustrates how the limb follows. a reference trajectory defined by an exponential rise function, with actual motion governed by a second-order dynamic model characterized by natural frequency and damping. The accompanying torque profile demonstrates how proportional, derivative, and integral terms adjust motor output to minimize the difference between commanded and measured angles. Both plots show how the system modulates mechanical assistance in response to user interaction and programmed targets. Clinical outcome data from a 6-week protocol involving 60 individuals with stroke or traumatic brain injury shows measurable changes in joint mobility, torque generation, and functional motor scores. Reported improvements include 22 to 30% increases in joint range, a 17% rise in peak torque at the end of the cycle, and gains of 12 to 15 points on standardized motor assessments. Compliance rates exceeded 90%, and follow-up evaluations indicated that most functional improvements were retained over a 3-month period. Rebless integrates a compact actuator, sensor-based control, multiple therapy modes, and measured clinical outcomes to support structured upper and lower limb rehabilitation.